Hey, didn't Stoops win his title in his second year?
In his second year, so did Jim Tressel. And it happened just sort of back to back there. But you saw the changes immediately with Stoops. Remember,
Yeah.
And I think, if we could ever have Barry Trammell on this podcast, he would confirm it. But the late David Boren wanted to fire John Blake before he ever coached a game because he couldn't run a meeting. He was incompetent. And I will tell you, before Venables was hired, I had lots of conversations with Dean Blevins about this. Dean was not a fan of Brent Venables being hired, and I think Venables knows it. Dean wanted Dan Lanning, and Dean's concern with Venables, having been around him for a long time, is that he wasn't up to the task of being the CEO of a football team. He is a coordinator. And I would point to you as we segue into the Sooners here that a lot of the marks of John Blake's Sooners are showing up in Oklahoma in terms of a lack of discipline, a second week of massive number of penalties, although not nearly as many yards. Last week it was 10 for 98. This week it was 8 for 52. But just a lot of detail and discipline left on the table. Everybody trying, just like in Stillwater. In Norman, everybody's trying their best. But I will tell you, and yeah, I listened to about half of the 2.5-hour Oklahoma breakdown with Gabe Eichert and Teddy Lehman, which is always an educational listen. But they saw a lot of they saw more than what I saw, but they felt what I felt. So just a quick tangent. I don't know if you saw this, but Jackson Arnold got benched in Auburn, and then Auburn came back to win. He got benched.
I didn't see that.
He got benched because he threw a 95-yard pick six. And Hugh Freeze, by the way, OU fans said mid-season last year, this guy isn't it. And then he goes to Auburn and proves us all right.
Well, you know that joke someone told, I think I might have mentioned on one of our earlier pods, is somebody said, I'm just glad to see Jackson Arnold finally get a chance to throw passes to OU players.
Right, 100%. Well, if the OU defense, the vaunted OU defense, could even get any takeaways. None again this week.
Yeah.
It's been the hallmark of this defense has been that it's been good, but it hasn't been ferocious. It really hasn't. The Bob Stoops defenses of the early 2000s, no, of course, I know that was Venables and Mike Stoops. They took the ball away a lot. They were ball hawks.
Well, but you had Rocky, and you had Roy, and you had, Teddy, and you had some absolute monsters back there. You can't do that all the time. That's lightning in a bottle type of defense those guys had. But I think they were terrific. They were fun to watch.
I'm sorry,
until they were kicking my team's butt. But
I thought Brent Venables was the master defensive coordinator. What that can be taught.
Absolutely, what did Eddie Sutton used to say? Sometimes it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmy and Joes.
100%. And by the way, that's why he and Kelvin Sampson were friends. Kelvin Sampson would put like a lid on the bucket and have the guys go fight for the ball on the floor. Kelvin Sampson taught his teams to be gritty. And he's doing it in Houston. That's why he's a Hall of Fame coach. But the Sooners on Saturday, the big problem, it wasn't really the defense. The defense did give up 32 points of the 34 and 400 yards. The big problem was John Money Mateer. It was the quarterback. And he comes from Washington State, and he looked all right. All right, as Randy Jackson would say on American Idol. It's all right, dog. He was okay the first few weeks. And in one of our first episodes, I said, I don't know that I'm that impressed with John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle. At a time when everybody was still on the train. He's only gotten worse. And Gabe and Teddy in their podcast pointed out just how many times Mateer didn't see down the field. Guys wide open. You think when you're watching it on TV, the quarterback's scrambling, you just assume he can't find anybody. Nobody's open. But what if that weren't true and he's just not seeing him? To wit, the play it was a beautiful play. Mateer improvised it beautifully and found Satanian, and Satanian was hauling ass down the sideline. 76 yards. Jaron Kanik was wide open over the middle. Wide open. And as you noted, you watched the OU Mississippi game, that wasn't nearly the first time Mateer was missing guys.
No, he missed several dudes downfield. He missed several dragging across. Now I can understand, when you're in a panic, when you're being pressed, when that defense and and Ole Miss has a good defense. When they're putting pressure on you, doing some panic throws or maybe misreading some guys. But I mean, there's a pattern of him not being able to see downfield. I don't know if it's size. I don't know if it's training. Because Kyler Murray had that problem, but Kyler Murray was so quick and so agile, he could get around the big guys to where he then could see, right? Mateer's not doing that. Mateer is just missing guys downfield, which is kind of surprising to me, and I wasn't watching specifically for that, but I just noticed that a couple of times, and I think even the announcers kind of mentioned something about a couple of guys coming wide open, and so yeah, that's something that needs to be fixed. He needs to watch quite a bit of game tape so he can get that, and he needs to run some extra practices with those receivers so he knows, so they get on that same page as, if I'm having to break out because of pressure coming from my backside, I need you to drag across with me, those type of things. But yeah, you're 100% right. He's missing some pitch and catch throws.
Something is not right there. And the momentum of this game really turned, I believe it was the second quarter when Mississippi got the safety. There were a couple of penalties that bogged the Sooners back down at the 5, and then another penalty that got them to the 2. And then for some reason, we're running Torrey Blaylock out to the side, and he was tackled in the end zone. The running game had some sparks with Xavier Robinson, but a lot of the play call was just bizarrely bad, and Venables called it out sometimes. And I remember when the Cleveland Browns, the year that Baker was coming in, you watched Hard Knocks with Hugh Jackson, and you essentially had a team of coaches who were undermining him on purpose, hoping he would fail. And this is why Brent Venables should have probably cleaned house when he came to town and hired his guys. That's why whoever gets hired in Stillwater should be able to hire his guys. There's something that is off, because Venables in postgame is saying, yeah, I think it's fair to say that we should have run Xavier Robinson more than we did today, especially in the fourth quarter. I got news for you, bud. You're the head coach. You can make that happen. Make that call. There's a level of micromanagement that needs to be had. I posted a video today about the owner from the Indianapolis Colts, Carly Ursay Gordon, who's on the field taking notes. She's up in their shit. She's watching what's going on. She's listening to what's going on the headset. Maybe that type of thing needs to be happening with OU, because you talk about Mateer and the receivers not being on the same page. I don't know that Venables and his own coaches are on the same page.
Well, here's the thing, though, with the Colts owner is that, as far as I know, she's not interfering. She's just paying attention to the process, right, letting it happen, but so she understands the process. Now, the problem is that at OU, if you had that, you're going to have somebody starting to interfere. If somebody, if the president or the AD or whomever is down there,
I'm not even suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is Venables is the head coach. Get involved.
Well, and that's exactly it, because there have been rumors forever, and I still don't know if this is true, that if a play call would come down, if Gundy didn't like it, he would change the call, because ultimately he's the head coach. Ultimately, it falls on him and the responsibility. So Venables needs to realize that. You have to be a CEO in modern college football. It's a CEO. It's hard for a coach to be a coach or a head coach and a coordinator at a big successful program, because there's just so much. You got to be that CEO. However, you also have to understand that the buck ultimately stops with you. And so ultimately that's where the fall guy is going to be. That's what happened with Gundy, and Venables kind of seems to be walking down that path as well.
It looks better for OU in terms of a chance for victories down the road with Kelly leaving, although maybe the Bayou Bengals, get a little boost from whoever takes over. Eli Drinkwitz, is that his name? Eli, the guy from Missouri?
I'm not sure. Not a fan of Missouri.
He's a good coach, but he's
not a fan of Missouri.
He's going to be a candidate for a lot of these gigs. What if he were to? He wouldn't leave during midseason, but it's another team that OU is going to play. OU's going to get their tail kicked in Knoxville this week. I think Heupel will have mercy on the Sooners, but they're going to score a lot, and the Tennessee defense is better than the Mississippi defense.
Okay, so that was going to be my question: is if that actually happens, is there suddenly calls for OU to get Heupel?
Well,
And would Heupel leave Tennessee?
I think that Heupel might leave Tennessee for Oklahoma. His family relocated, and I think his mom is not with us anymore. I'm not 100% sure about that, but they moved to Muskogee, and from Aberdeen, South Dakota, and so they lived in Oklahoma, and he's got a lot of roots here. I don't know that I don't know that it has to be within the Oklahoma family, but you'd have a good offense. You'd have a good offense.
Well, and he's been gone long enough. It's like what we were talking last time. He's been gone long enough. He is a part of the OU family, and he is a legend forever there because of what he did early 2000. But he's been gone long enough, and he's had enough of these other experiences, and he's had time to run his own program fairly successfully. I think he would be a great hire for OU. I mean,
Heupel's a legend in my mind. He achieved the impossible, taking a Blake team and turning them into national champions in 2 years. I'd be all about it. But this isn't going to be a Baker Mayfield miracle in Knoxville like it was 10 years ago. This is going to be a Tennessee team that just beat Kentucky, which, by the way, Texas had trouble with Kentucky in Lexington. Tennessee beats Kentucky in Lexington like 56-27 or something like that. The problem is that, I don't know that Tennessee's going to score 56, but I don't know that Oklahoma's going to score 27. I mean, this is a game that I could absolutely see being 41-13, 41-20. That's fine. Okay, you got Missouri, you got LSU, you got Alabama. Which one are you going to win? The problem is that I don't know that it's any of them. Now, I get LSU will be here in Oklahoma, but at that point, that's second to the last game or the last game. I mean, could the air be completely out of the balloon at that point? It wasn't just a loss that LSU had to Texas A&M at home. It was a beatdown. What if the Sooners go out to Knoxville and get beat 51-19?
Well, that's where you got to have that coach and that coaching staff rally the guys. I mean, but if they're done, and I'm kind of afraid of that at Oklahoma State, there are still a lot of guys playing, but it's not enough. Do the guys there at that point at OU go, well, we're 6-6 again. We might as well just not even bother. Because Alabama's the last game, right?
It's one of them, LSU or Alabama. I was thinking LSU might be our post-Thanksgiving game, but Alabama's toward the end also. That's not going to be a win.
Well, no, Alabama won't be, and LSU, you're right. I mean, there's that new manager bounce. You get a new coach, and I mean UCLA. Look what they did right after they fired. So, golly, it's interesting times in college football land in Oklahoma. I liked it better when we were good.
I do too, but I also love the come up. I will tell you, one of the things that I'll always be grateful to John Blake for is that he was a good recruiter. But it took a coach to, a CEO, if you will, to put it all together. I definitely want them to be good, but I don't want them to be regular. I would almost rather it be bad than regular. And the fear is Nebraska. No offense, Cornhuskers, but you've become the literal symbol of going from greatness to just mediocrity.
Absolute abject mediocrity. You're right. They're not even bad. They're just average.
They're just.
I mean, because a bad team can be fun to watch. The Cincinnati game a couple weeks ago, that was fun to watch. I mean, and the crowd was having a good time and all that. But there's nothing about Nebraska that, in any way, shape, or form, that screams fun. And they've been average for 30 years now.
Well, if you're a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Dallas Cowboys, the frustrating thing for me isn't that you're not winning titles. It's that you're sitting around at 7-10 or 9-8. Mike Tomlin, the year after year of 8-9, 9-8, 10-7. My goodness, crapper, get off the pot, man. Yeah, what are we doing here? But the fear is, though, if the minds of recruits are very, very short. They don't remember the glory days of the 2000s. Even with Oklahoma State, you go around and say that Oklahoma State, well, we almost won the national title in 2011. They're not going to remember that.
Dude, they were 4, if that old.
That's right. That's I do think that college football is going to turn into the pros in this respect. You're going to have a lot of coaches get recycled at this place and that place. In hockey, there's almost a rule in hockey. It's like Methodist ministers, 5 years and out. Gotta go. Find somebody else. And it's just because they get stale. And I think that's going to happen. I don't know what happens with Venables. I think he's safe if the Sooners end the year 7-5, but I think they have to win one of these final games. Otherwise, I think he's done under this AD. It's a contagion, and it's
right.
The contagion could be a blowout loss prompts it. And what's happening is these schools, you're like, where does LSU get $54 million? Where does Penn State get $45 million? I think these schools, it's not that they're going to eliminate the buyouts. They're going to figure out how to pay the buyout before they ever sign the dotted line with these guys.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Again, don't know this for a fact. However, when Oklahoma State played Oregon, the AD and a whole bunch of bigwigs flew out early and hung out with a guy that supposedly is like a multi-millionaire, has like a winery type of thing. And then the next week we lose to Tulsa and Gundy's gone. So there's very little you can convince me that they weren't talking to that guy lining out a buyout. I don't know, but to me, that's smart business. And what you're talking about is smart business. Know that you have that lined up and stop. I mean, good Lord, school, stop doing $93 million buyouts. What are you doing?
Right.
I mean, Penn State deserves some of this for that stupid contract.
Right. So I get it. You want a big name coach, but I would tell you, Bob Stoops wasn't a big name coach when he came to OU. And your Eric Morrises, your Summeralls, your guys across the country who are going to become big name coaches, you might not have heard of them yet. And it's maybe time to stop recycling these same old people around. Maybe it'd be better for James Franklin to go to a Bowling Green or a Toledo or something like that and just sort of like reinvent his career.
Imagine the recruiting pop a Bowling Green or a Tulane or a school like that would get from a James Franklin. A big an LSU, someplace like that, it's not going to make a wave because of what they're used to, right? But if you go to one of those, or heck, even an Oklahoma State, it would be a huge pop and a huge recruiting pop for that first couple of years. But you're right, it's not the same game. And schools, and right now, again, I think just like we both been saying, it's contagious and it's a contagion, and we're in the middle of it. And I guarantee you, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to see more big name coaches not there.
Right. Yeah. They'll be disappeared. So we'll see how it goes in Tennessee. Oklahoma State, they've got Kansas next.